All right, this is an introduction to activity 23.4. I'm going to do two examples here that are going to be very similar to what you're going to have to do for the actual activity. All right, and so everything we've done earlier this week is a lead up to this point. All right, and so here in this problem, you are asked, it's really a division problem, right? Because this is saying x plus 3 times some other expression is equal to this whole product here. Okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually set this up. Since I know that this is x plus 3, there's only two terms, x and 3. And so that I'm going to put over here, x and 3, because there's three terms over here. That's what I'm trying to figure out here. All right. Um, this I'm gonna do this. This is just an empty space here, and I'm also going to rewrite all of this kind of down here, and you'll see why in a little bit. All right. Um, x to the third plus 7x squared plus 10x and minus 6. Okay. So we're going to start with this first term, right? X to the third. Well, how do we get that? I know that this is x, right? Because it's from x plus 3. So this x times this first term is equal to x to the third, right? So I'm thinking x times what is x to the third? Well, I know that this x has an invisible 1, right? And so this one, this must be x squared, because x times x squared has got to be x to the third. All right. Now, since we know this is x squared, whoops, right? Since we know this is x squared, now we're going to multiply this times the 3, and that's going to give us 3x squared. Okay? That's going to give us 3x squared. Well, now where do we go? Because now we got to figure this out. Okay? Well, if you remember from Mr. Pardon's video earlier in the week, we talked about combining like terms, kind of by diagonals, right? So if I have this 3x squared, I know that I'm going to have to add this missing term, okay? So this missing term plus 3x squared has to equal 7x squared, right? So what plus 3 has to be 7? That's got to be 4, okay? So 4x squared. Now if you need to pause here and take a moment to think about that, or just rewind and listen to that over again, please do that, all right? 4x squared plus 3x squared is 7x squared, right? So that's why this has to be 4x squared. Well, that gives us a clue, right? If this is 4x squared and this was our x, so now we're thinking x times what up here has to be a 4x squared. That's got to be 4x, right? Because 4x times x is 4x squared. If this is 4x, and now we're going to multiply that with 3, that's going to be 12x here, okay? Now we need to go a little bit more. Again, here's another diagonal, right? If you can envision, or I'll draw it and then erase it again, right? So something plus 12x has got to equal a 10x. Now think about that. If this is a positive 12 and we're going down to positive 10, that must mean that this is going to be a negative value, right? And so that's got to be a negative 2x. Okay, so negative 2x plus 12x is going to give us this positive 10x. So now that this is negative 2x, we're thinking x times what is negative 2x? That's got to be just negative 2. And we know that it works out because look at our last term. That's got to be negative 6, right? So negative 2, negative 2 times the 3 gives us a negative 6. Okay. So this whole thing here is what we want inside the parentheses. X plus 3 times x squared plus 4x minus 2, right, equals all of that. Okay, so that's why the two-way table was pretty important earlier this week. Okay, so let's look at another example. If you need a pause here to copy this down, or if you want to just watch, okay, that's fine too. But pause here and take a second to copy this problem down. All right, and I'm going to set it up just like we did the last problem. All right, so I've written x minus 4 over here, and notice this has got to be a negative 4. Okay, the sign goes with it. All right, x is positive, so that's here. It's minus 4, so I'm going to put negative 4. And the product, or what it equals, goes over here. Okay, and so, right, this is our clue, right? X to the third, that's our first term right here. All right, so we're thinking x times what has to be x to the third? That's got to be x squared. Okay, x times x squared is x to the third. Now that we know that's x squared, we multiply that with the negative 4. To put in this box, that's going to be negative 4x squared. Okay? Now we use this, the negative 6x squared, as our clue. Right? This box here, so this plus negative 4 has got to equal a negative 6. Right? This plus negative 4 has got to equal negative 6. That's going to be a negative 2. Right? So since we're combining like terms, this has to be a negative 2x squared also. Okay? Negative 2 plus negative 4 equals negative 6. So if this box is negative 2x squared, so now I'm thinking x times what has to equal a negative 2x squared? That's got to be a negative 2x. Okay? Negative 2x times x is negative 2x squared. So now that this is negative 2x, I can multiply it with the negative 4. That's going to give me a positive 8x. All right? And then we use our diagonal again, right? This plus 8x has to equal a 15x. Right? This plus 8x has to equal 15x. That's got to be a positive 7x. Okay. So now I'm thinking, well, if this is 7x, then x over here times what is 7x? That's got to be 7, right? We also know that works out because look at our last term. It's got to be negative 28. And look, 7 times negative 4 is negative 28. Okay. And so, if you need to rewind to any portion of this video, please do that. I think this video will help you greatly for activity 23.4. You have two very similar problems to try. And so, yeah, hopefully that was helpful.